Welcome once again, my friends, and thank you for stopping by to listen to an old storyteller. Today we have a story from Australia, and the title of this story is How Fire Was Stolen from Red-Crested Cockatoo. Ages ago, in the dream time, many of the beautiful birds and timid animals now living in the bush were men. One day, towards sunset, a tribe of blacks were returning from the hunt, when they met a very old man carrying a long spear and an empty dilly bag. When he approached them, he placed the spear in the ground as a token of peace, and said, "I have traveled far, my brothers, and many moons have gone since I left the hunting ground of my people. I have journeyed to the land where the voice of the great waters is like rolling thunder. I have passed beyond the mountains that are hidden in gray mist to the great red plains beyond, where there is neither bird nor beast, and the face of the sun is forever hidden in a dark cloud. I have journeyed without resting to the land that lies beyond the dawn, and many strange adventures have I known. Now I am old, and my people are scattered like dead leaves before the wind, and before I seek them, I would rest with you for a while. In return for your kindness, I will tell you the secret of the fire of the sun. He who is brave among you may bring it to your tribe." The headman of the tribe decided to take the old man with them to their camping ground. When they arrived, the evening meal was quickly prepared, and the choicest morsels were given to the weary traveler. The blacks then formed a circle around the old man and eagerly awaited his story. At this time, fire was unknown in the land. When the blacks enjoyed the warmth of the sun, they often wondered how they could take the fire from the sky in order to warm them when the snow fell like a great white mantle, and the cold wind howled eerily and chilled them to the bone. They did not know how to cook their food or harden their spearheads by fire, but for warmth alone they desired it. The old man crouched on his haunches, wrapped his possum skin rug around him, peered into the darkness of the bush as though he suspected a hidden enemy, and, having made himself comfortable, began to tell of his adventurous journey. "Far to the east, beyond the mountains that hide the sun, I journeyed," he said. "The water no longer ran in the creeks, and the water holes were dry. Many animals were dead in the bed of the river to which they had come for water, and died from thirst. The shadow of death was across the land, and I hurried on without resting, lest it should fall across my path. One day, when my tongue was big in my mouth, and my legs were as weak as those of a child, I saw in the distance a gleaming water-hole. I ran toward it, but fell many times before reaching it. So great was my weakness. At last I reached it, but the blackness of night fell upon me, and I slept, although the sun was high in the sky. When I awoke, I heard a loud noise in my ears like the buzzing of many flies, and my legs would not support me. I dragged myself to the water-hole, and, bending my head low to drink, I touched the hot, dry sand with my mouth. That which I thought was water was a gleaming bed of sand. An evil spirit possessed me, and I dug deep into the sand until my hands were torn and bleeding. The sand became firmer, and at last a trickle of water appeared. It gradually increased until there grew many high trees. One morning, before the sun had climbed the mountains, I saw its fire gleaming through the trees. Being surprised at the sight, I cautiously drew nearer, and then I saw Mar the Cockatoo take the fire from under his crest and light his way with it. In my hurry I stood on a dry stick, and its crackling drew the cockatoo's attention to me. He threw a spear at me, and I was forced to flee. After many weary days and nights, I arrived at the campground of my people, but they were no longer there. I then followed in their tracks till I met you. If there is one among your tribe who is brave enough to face the dragon of my long and weary journey and to take the fire from Mar, the Cockatoo, Then his name shall be a welcome word on all men's tongues until the end of time." When they had heard this story, the tribe was greatly excited. They all spoke together, and few were heard. At last they agreed to invite the Cockatoo to a great corroboree, and, while he was enjoying himself, to steal the fire. The day arrived for the great feast. There was dancing and singing and mock fighting. Then they offered Mar a choice piece of kangaroo flesh to eat, but he refused it. He was then offered the kangaroo skin, which he accepted and took away with him to his camp. The feast was over, and still they did not have the fire. Prite, who was a very little fellow, decided to follow the Cockatoo to his camp. He followed Mar over the mountains until he was very weary, and, just as he was about to turn back, he saw the Cockatoo take the fire from under his crest feathers. He then returned to the camp and told the members of the tribe that the old man's story was true. The absorbing question was discussed late into the night, and at length it was agreed that Tatkana, the robin, should make the journey again and endeavor to steal the coveted fire. Early the next morning he set out on his journey, and, after traveling for some time, he reached the camp of the Cockatoo. He arrived just in time to see Mar take the fire from his crest and light a fire stick. With this stick he singed off the hair of the kangaroo skin which the tribe had given him. Tatkana was so eager to steal the fire that he approached too close and scorched his breast feathers, hence his name Robin Redbreast. When Tatkana's feathers were scorched, he was very frightened, but, as the Cockatoo had seen him, he decided to act boldly. Running to the fire, he seized a fire stick and made off. In his hurry, he set fire to the dry grass around him, and in short time the whole bush was ablaze. The lion roared like the sound of floodwaters in the mountains. Birds and animals raced before it in their efforts to gain shelter of the green trees. But it swept all before it, and left a smoking black waste behind. When a tall tree fell, a shower of golden sparks flew high in the air, and the red reflection of the flames in the sky was like the rising of the sun. When the Cockatoo discovered that the fire was stolen and beyond his control for all time, he was very angry. Taking his nola-nolas, he went in search of Tatkana to kill him. When Mar arrived at the camping ground of the tribe, Tatkana, who was only a little fellow, was very frightened, and begged his friend Kartang, the kookaburra, to take up his quarrel. Kartang agreed to do so, but he had not been fighting many minutes when he was beaten and forced to take into the trees, where he has remained ever since. Mar, the Cockatoo, returned to his camp disconsolate. The tribe was very pleased with the robin for his bravery. When you see a red-crested cockatoo, you will remember how fire was stolen from him. He still has a beautiful red crest, and is known as Leadbeater's Cockatoo. The robin redbreast also retains his scorched feathers in remembrance of his great feat. Thank you once again for listening to this story. If you enjoyed this story, please press that like button. Also, please help an old storyteller out by subscribing to my channel. The next story will be posted in a few days, so until then, may your story continue to be a good one.